Hey you guys, today's video I'll be showing you how to paint Mitsuri, and pardon me if I said her name wrong. You know who I'm talking about. I'm gonna be painting Mitsuri from Demon Slayer, and I'll be showing you step by step in how I did it, even the supplies I've used. Definitely stay tuned for that and watch till the very end, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It'll mean so much to me. And alright, let's get started. Alright, let's get started. So I already did my sketch, and now I'm going to go into it with outlining it with black acrylic. And this is my favorite acrylic. It's by Angelo's Leather Paint. For this part, I will be using the fine line detail brush, and this helps with fine lines and getting into the small details with anime designs, especially with the outline of the design with animates. With the detail brush, I recommend the long brush, and when you're using acrylic, I recommend you put just a little bit water on your brush to mix it with the acrylic. I'm sure maybe you guys already know this, but it helps with like just spreading the acrylic towards the lines as you go. It definitely helps me out. I like to outline my design with my black acrylic just so that I can have a guideline to where my design is. If you left it just with the pencil lead design sketch on it and you decide to paint it on top with acrylic, then you're gonna probably lose your design. Personally prefer to outline it with whatever color the anime design is. It can be black or a little light brown or dark brown. In this case, we're gonna use black acrylic, so I definitely recommend outlining your design with your acrylic paint. And also, don't worry if you make a mistake with like outlining it maybe a bit too thicker or maybe too thin or maybe too bumpy in some like lines that you wanted it to be like a straight solid line. You definitely don't have to worry too much about it, because when you finally finish with your outline design with black or whatever you prefer to use, you'll be able to like adjust it with the color that you will add on top of your design. Hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, it's okay. As I keep going, you will see the example of what I'm talking about, how I add my paint on top to make the outline a bit thinner in case I wanted to adjust some lines mistake on my painting. And for my next brush, I like to use a flat brush, and this is perfect for the size of my design. And for most of my acrylics that I'll be using will be from Hobby Lobby's the Master Touch acrylic paint. Now I'm going to start off with making the skin tone. You're going to have to use a lot of white with this one based on the picture that we're working with, and yes, a little bit of the maple yellow just to give it a little nice tan to it. You don't need to use too much of it. A little bit goes a long way, and we're going to mix a little pink because it does have some type of rosy pink into the skin. So let's get to it and let's start mixing. And make sure that while you're mixing, sometimes you will probably add a little bit water to it just so that it can mix more smoother. Acrylic does tend to dry up really fast, so I think it's also best to add a little water. Also, when you're painting on your design, yeah, it goes a long way if you add a little bit water to your brush. Make sure you make enough of the skin tone color with your acrylic just so that we can add a second layer later once the first layer dries. So definitely make enough, because that's usually my mistake. I usually make so little and then I have to remake it again. Okay, so this is the part I was telling you about. The acrylic can easily erase the outline that you made a mistake on. Like if you added too much of the black outline, you can always erase it with whatever color is going on top, and it makes everything so much better. Next, I will be adding a small detail brush, and this will help for like any small corners that you can't really get into with a flat brush. So this definitely helps with the little small corners of the design basically. Now I'm going to make the shadow parts of the design underneath her jawline and underneath her hairline. So I'm going to mix these colors together, add a little light to it just to give it a little bright to it, not too dark, and make it more of the pink tone as you can tell in the picture. And make sure you use a detail brush. This is a much bigger one, so definitely helps with like putting a lot on the design instead of like a really small one. I plan to add a second layer of this color, so you have to let acrylic dry before you do that, because then it's just gonna not be as great. So in the meantime, I'm gonna add this color in other parts of the face while that other side dries, and then just give it a few minutes. Usually acrylic tends to dry really quick, and then you'll be able to go back into that same spot and add the same color to it and add that second layer, and it's just gonna make everything perfect. You won't see too much of that brush line in the paint with the second layer. So as you can tell, underneath the neck is a bit lighter than what it is on the face, and that's because I added a little bit white into the mixing of my color. But that's okay, you can have it how you already have it. You can always change it and still add on top of your previous color that you had underneath. Either way, the more the layer, the better, and either way the color is going to change, because with adding layers, the color just gets either more brighter or more darker. Okay, now for my favorite part, we're gonna start doing her hair, and we're gonna use two different pink tones that I've chosen. You can either choose this one or choose one that's close to it, or it's your favorite. You can make it brighter, lighter, it's up to you. So I'll be also adding the Naples yellow just to give it that coral color to the pink tone. As you can tell in the image, it's more of a coral kind of pink. At least that's how I see it. That's how I'm gonna mix it, and it's looking great so far. To make this pink more of a coral paint, I used my coral acrylics, so that definitely helped, and it was only $2.99 in Hobby Lobby. Definitely check it out. And yeah, now I got exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm going to start filling in her hair, and I'm gonna go with the darker tone first. And you want to make sure you add 2 layers of this color, just in general with all the colors. So make sure you make enough to fill in another layer. That was my issue for a while, is that I would make a little bit of that color and I'll run out of it, and then I would have to do it all over again making the same color. So make sure you make enough for a second layer. And like always, before you add that second layer, make sure it's fully dry, because if you go into it while it's still slightly wet, some of it could come off and it's just gonna look like some parts didn't get that second layer. It's just gonna throw off the whole process. So make sure it dries. Now that that's done and I added my second layer, I might go back into adding another layer just in case. I'm going to start now with the much lighter part of her hair. So I'm going to use my purple red and I'm going to add a little bit white into it just to make it more lighter, of course. So I'm going to go with my titanium white and I'm going to mix it until it's into my liking. It's gonna be basically the same way I did the dark pink tone of my liking. I'm gonna do the same thing with this one, but I'm gonna add mostly white to make it more lighter. And yes, I will be using this one again, just a little bit. And yeah, until I get the color that I'm looking for. And then once I'm done and I made enough, I will be adding that on top of her head and making sure that I add 2 layers of it just to get it right. It's looking so great, you guys. What do you guys think? Definitely let me know in the comments below of what you guys think. And if you ever try this for yourself, definitely let me know too, or if you're going to. Now for the green part of her hair, oh, this is so beautiful. I am in love with green. Maybe it has to do because I love frogs, I don't know, but green is so beautiful, especially this green. So I've noticed as I was mixing the green with the yellow, it turned out a bit mint color like, and that's not what I'm going for. So I added lemon yellow and I noticed just a little bit of yellow didn't really do as much, but I can see that it was going to the color green that I'm looking for. So I decided to add way more yellow than what I expected, and it came out perfect. And this is going to be perfect for the bottom part, her hair tips. So yeah, it's coming out great, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. You're gonna have to add another layer of this. Yes, I know you're gonna want it to be wet so you can blend it in with the pink, and you can still do that, but it's best that you do that twice just so that I can give it that vibrant coat color. It's just gonna be better. Adding layers in general in a painting gives it that perfect add to it. It just makes it way more, pops out more. It's just way better, more cleaner. Also, this is a trick that I do. If you find yourself wanting to take a break, put a plastic wrap around your acrylic and it will definitely keep your acrylic safe, and it will still stay wet and it won't dry off. That's just my tip. I hope that helped. But anyways, going back to the mixing and blending, as you can tell, the layer dried, so I'm gonna add another layer on top of it. Like I said, it gives it more vibrant, it makes it more pop out. So you're gonna want to blend it in when it's still a little slightly wet. So I noticed that when you clean off your brush with a napkin or rag, whatever you have near you, and you go into it with it clean, it ends up blending it very well, as you can tell in the video. So make sure when you start to blend in the middle of anything, you clean off your brush with whatever you have near you, either rag or paper towel. So yeah, you're constantly going to be wiping your brush. Definitely is the key when it comes down to blending. And make sure when you're blending your design in the middle between the colors, make sure you softly blend it and not put too much pressure on the brush, just so it can gently mix and blend well together. And constantly clean your brush with the paper towel so that way it can blend the colors together nicely. Hopefully that made sense, but if it didn't make sense, hopefully you watching me paint helps you and get an idea of what I'm talking about. So now we're gonna go in with the eyes, and as you can tell, I'm gonna go with titanium white. And since we already have the greens that we've made, I'm just gonna add a little more white to it and get it to a much lighter color to your liking, or in the image that I'm using as my guide. So I'm gonna make it more lighter. So basically take the same green that we use for the hair and just add more white until it's like more of a minty neon color green. So this is perfect, it's coming out great. And yeah, we're almost there, we're almost done. And I can't wait to show you the trick that I do with the background. It's so cool, I love it. And oh my gosh, you guys, this is looking so nice. We're almost there. This is looking so great. And now I'm going to use a little to give it like more of a dimension. You want to add a little dark tone on top of it, like add a little green to it on top, just to give it like that shadow on top of the eye, her pupils. So it's going to look so nice. So now that we're filling in the middle parts of her eyes, as you can tell, I only used a little bit black to the green, and it made a big difference. Look at how it looks. It looks more like a gray green. It's so pretty. So you definitely don't have to use too much black. So be careful with black. You just basically just try to use like little by little until you get the green that you're looking for, just in case, because that color can go a long way and you do not want to mess up. Okay, now we're going with the white. We're going to add the details. Don't forget to add all these little small details. It makes a big difference, especially with the eyes with animate. Oh my gosh, so pretty. Adding the small detail on her lips, and as you can tell, I didn't add the white dot on her lips yet, you know, the little gloss effect, just because I wanted to let that dry first before I do that. So for now, I'm gonna paint her eyebrows, and I only use brown and a little bit black and a little bit white to it. So you're basically looking for something light. You don't want to do it black because, as you can tell, the picture is more of a brown tone. Now that the lip is dry, I'm gonna use that white and go over with that with the eyes as well, just going over whatever needs to be added with white. As you can tell, I mix a little black with the white just to make her outfit. Now we're going with the grayer tones here now. And since we're still focusing on the gray, I'm going to turn my purple more of a grayish tone. So I'm going to put a little purple into my white mixed with black, just to give it that purple gray tone that I'm looking for her outfit. Until it's into my liking, I'm going to apply that to her outfit. Okay, I've noticed that I've only did a little bit, so I'm gonna add a lot more white just to have a lot more, since her outfit is pretty much a lot that I need to fill in. So especially with adding a second layer, let's not forget about that. So now that I'm getting started with this, I'm adding one layer, and so far it looks good for just one layer. This is awesome. So as I'm doing that, I'm letting it dry, and by the time the first layer that I did in the beginning with the left side, when that dries up, I will add another layer to it. I decided to add a little bit more black into the purple grayish tone just to give it that effect. And let's not forget the highlights, of course, like adding much lighter grays on the side. Basically whatever your picture shows, your guideline, whatever you prefer, of course. But so far this is looking great, and if you guys ever decide to do this, definitely let me know, because I would love to see how yours came out. This is a lot of fun. I love painting anime in general. If you guys ever painted anime, definitely let me know what anime designs have you painted. So anyways, as we're going, I'm adding another layer, and as you can tell, I decided to add a little lighter just because I noticed it was getting a bit darker. So now you don't have to do that, you can keep it how it is. I just tend to change my mind here and there, but yeah, that's just me. Now that we're done with that, we're gonna add the white to give it that clean up, just making sure that the outline is solid and clean and giving that layer. Now we're gonna go with my darker, much darker purple. Since underneath her white cloth she's wearing a much darker purple tone, so we're gonna add that, and we're gonna mix it with white. I've noticed it's more of a brown tone. I might add a little bit more to it because I've noticed that this is a bit too light, but it's always good to add another layer. So if it's a little light for the first layer, that's okay, because your second layer will be definitely even better for whatever color you end up choosing. So now we're going with a much darker, and as you can tell, that one layer didn't look good, so that's why it's always good to add a second layer. And while the purple tone layer is drying, I'm gonna get started with my sword. I'm gonna mix the pinks and purples and red together just to give it that same color that I'm looking for her sword. And now that that's dry, I'm gonna go back into my purple and add that second layer. And yes, it looks even better when I added that second layer. It's erasing all that texture brush that it leaves with the first layer. So the second layer definitely cleans that up. And now I'm gonna go back to the sword design and just finish that up. Finishing up the sword, I will be using this Michael Neon Pink. They're really good. I love their paint as well. Not only do I use Hobby Lobby's, I use Michael's. I think they're both great, so definitely check them out, or whatever you prefer. Now to finish up the detail with the eyes, you're going to make the nice shadow gray above her eyeballs. As you can tell, it's not too dark and it's not too light. So really quick, I just mixed these three colors to make the sword part. Not that you can really see it because it's just a little bit, so I kind of skipped that ahead. So now that we're done, we're going to tape up everything that we don't want paint to touch. So because now we're going to get started with the background. So I like to use this blue tape. This definitely helps with like covering, sealing things I don't want paint to touch, especially with resin. Definitely good with resin as well. So let's finish this up and be very patient with this, because you do not want to ruin your design when you start to paint the background. So you gotta have a lot of patience and enjoy what you're doing as well, because everything just comes out perfectly. Okay, now we're gonna use the spatula, and the reason why we're gonna use the spatula, because I want to have a texture background, so this definitely helps with that. So we're gonna add the colors that I want for the background, and I'm using, like I said, this image as my guideline. It might not come out exactly like it, but I'm gonna make it similar to it. Like I said, give it your own style. It doesn't have to be exactly like the image or like mine. It can be however you want, because this is more like an abstract, having fun, playing with a spatula. If this is your first time using a spatula, it definitely is fun just to do. It's kind of like, you know, how do I say, decorating a cake in a way, right? Making textures and stuff. So this is really fun. So you want to mix your white and pink, add a little brown, add a little black to it. You don't have to wait until it dries to do this. You can do it while it's wet, and you know, it blends in super easy like that. So this was definitely fun. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed this a lot. I love texture spatula paint. As you can tell, I'm not sure if it's for you guys as well, but with me, I noticed that the paint is not touching the side of the canvas, the edges. So we're gonna go back with a brush to finish the side. And now that I'm removing the tape, as you can tell, some parts got bled through, and we're gonna have to fix that. But before that, I'm gonna fill in some of the spot that the spatula quite didn't touch. So I'm gonna just finish it off with the paintbrush. I'm just gonna make it look more abstract, so it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be perfect. So we're just gonna fill in those spots that I just couldn't do with spatula. I'm going to give it a little bit like a splash effect with my brush. Make sure you add a lot of water so it can give that effect. Make sure you don't add too much because you don't want to also ruin the design, of course. Now before I finish up, I'm going to remake the color of the hair so that way I can clean it up, since the background color kind of went over the tape that I was trying to prevent it touching my design, but that's okay. Sometimes things like this happen, so you just want to make sure you either saved up the color that you already made or just remake it again with your best ability of trying to make it exactly the same. So now that I'm almost done with this, and with adding the touch up, you want to go back into outlining it with the black acrylic paint. And now that I'm almost done and I can have an idea out, I'm going to add a little bit more acrylic splash to the background. Just my preference, you guys don't have to do that. And yeah, it's looking so great so far. But I did notice one thing as I was finishing up. I did notice the side had a white line on the side. Kind of like the acrylic didn't really touch it as much. So I'm going to finish by adding the edges, a little bit of acrylic, just to make it more cleaner. So I'm going to do that right now. It doesn't really take much. I'm just gonna add a little of the similar color that the background already has. Now I'm going to paint the side of my canvas black, and I'm gonna use Angel's acrylic leather paint. This is perfect for a nice layer of black. You don't have to use too much of this acrylic paint. Because look, just one layer just goes a long way. You can always add a second one, that's totally fine, but compared to other acrylics, you add constant layers, and I've noticed that with this acrylic I don't have to add that much layer. So this is perfect, and I do recommend using a sponge because that way it goes on really clean compared to like a brush, because if you're gonna paint the edges with the brush, it's gonna take you forever. So definitely use a sponge. It goes a long way. Ever since I discovered this, it has helped me so much. And make sure you do not squeeze so much because you don't want to go over the design, of course. Definitely be gentle with that. Just when I thought I was done, I wanted to add a little bit glitter, and I got this at Hobby Lobby, by the way, in case you guys were wondering. So I'm gonna add a little bit in the eyes and a little bit in the background just to give it that nice little extra to it, I guess. You know, it looks so great. Everything's great with glitter, right? Just kidding. Maybe not everything, but just a little goes a long way. And now that I'm done with my acrylic painting, I'm going to seal it up with the Liquitex matte medium. So definitely, if you guys were wondering what I use, I definitely recommend the matte one instead of the gloss, but that's just my preference. If you guys like more of the gloss, I definitely recommend you using Liquitex Seal Medium Gloss. You don't need a second layer for this part unless you want to, but for the most part you just need one layer, and one layer should be good to go. And yes, don't worry, the brush stroke lines will definitely go away as soon as this dries. And there you guys have it. I hope you guys enjoyed me painting Mitsuri in this video. Stay tuned for my next video. I will be painting Muichiro, if I said that right. I apologize if I didn't. So stay tuned for that. I will be posting my next video painting the rest of this design. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting me know your thoughts. And if you guys have done anime designs yourself, definitely let me know which one you've done. And if you want me to do other designs, definitely let me know in the comments below. Give me ideas for my next video. But thank you guys again. Don't forget to follow my social media. I love you guys. Thanks again. Till next time. Bye.